Hello, heathens, and welcome to Spinning the Wheel podcast with me, your decaying host, Megan Angus. This week, I'm creeping around, covered in ergot, rustling through your grain storage, waiting to fuck up your Christmas. Okay, this week we are looking at the astrology, the lunar phases, the heliacal risings of fixed stars, and the holy days of Samhain season, waning moon in Virgo, lunar week 40 by some lunar calendars around the planet. First off, let me say thank you so much to everyone who has been sending in comments about the podcast. Oh my God. It is really wonderful to hear how much this is affecting you. It's affecting me too. I love doing this work. It's been really amazing. I want to keep doing it. um, and I also feel like I'm hanging out with you, even though I am yelling alone in my house. I do, imagine that you are all here with me without, without the loss of toilet paper. um, if you love this podcast, here's the shill. If you love this podcast, you can support this work through Patreon. Thank you to all my patrons. Oh my God. And you can sub there from $1 a month up. To be able to support this work. You can also leave a review on your favored podcast service, wherever it is that you listen to this program. And if you are feeling especially fancy, you can leave a thumbs up or a heart or a like or a whatever the thing is. Okay. And also, you've heard it here first, folks. I will be announcing some workshops and some standalone classes very, very soon on tarot and paganism and witchcraft, other than the Wheel of the Year classes. This is something different. These classes all will be limited entry. My patrons will have first access to sign up, and then folks that are following my newsletter, and then I'll announce these classes on social media. Full warning, the last tarot class that I put up sold out very, very quickly once I announced it on social media, so plan accordingly. Again, you can sign up to my Patreon, but you can also sign up to my newsletter through my website, and it is infrequent, but I do send it out from time to time. Okay. The shill is over. On with the shoe. All right. This week, we don't have a whole lot going on in terms of holy days and festivals, but we do have some big ones, and we do have some very potent ones, which is pretty cool. And we also have some pretty hefty astrology, not astrology that's necessarily asking us to do a whole lot of work, but it's a lot of astrology for one little period of time. So let's get into it. Okay, I know that these stores are jam-packed with fucking ho-ho bullshit, but we're still in Samhain season, and I will say that at the end of November and the beginning of December until the things change. So you've been warned, okay? I am still over here bah humbugging it up, all right? It's motherfucking Samhain season, and I don't want to hear shit about it. Okay, thank you. Moving on. What are our Samhain season themes, and what's our witches' work? I've been saying this every week, but I really like orienting you guys on the wheel every week so that we are reaffirming our themes that we're working with. We are touching base on the life, death, rebirth process, and that is going to come into focus this week. We are working with fate, and we are working with ancestors in our global themes that we see in ancient and modern holidays around the planet. We have endings and beginnings, transformations, fate and rites of passage, sex, death, and chaos. Throughout Samhain season, we will see all of these themes repeated over and over in various mixtures and combinations. A little more emphasis on this, a little more emphasis on that, but very centered on this collection of stuff. Okay, so our lunar week kicks off on November 27th with a waning half moon in Virgo at 5 degrees. This is going to be exact at 4:27 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, later in the day for everybody else around the planet. And this moon really emphasizes being alone. Not surprising for a Virgo moon, right? Virgo tends to kind of emphasize the solitary, the alone, the solo. But in particular, this moon is really about um, kind of the grim work of setting boundaries and reinforcing those boundaries and reinforcing the end of things, reinforcing the border of where the energy has to stop, where the cycle has to end. Very in theme with this time of year, isn't it? Right. So this moon is a lot about cutting the cord, being in solitary meditation, choosing to move with the group, and then choosing to go back to being alone. And really like being straight with yourself about those places where your commitments to people or systems or whatever are getting in the way of you moving to your own rhythm and you listening to your own inner compass and all of that stuff. So this moon is really, really about coming back into what do I need? How do I need to be moving? And I told you no. I told you this was done. I told you this is over. I have to hold this line firm here. This fence is going to stay up. That thing. Okay, for our lunar body, we are resting, relaxing, nourishing, supporting, or otherwise restoring the upper digestive organs and systems. So that's our gallbladders and all of that stuff. And as I say every week, I am not a medical doctor. I am a doctor of the moon and stars. So if you want to incorporate any of the information or ideas contained in the lunar body work from this podcast, check in with your trusted health advisor before proceeding. But there is a rhythm to caring for the body and working with the body and its systems that could be influenced by the moon and its rhythms. Sometimes that's really potent for people, and sometimes that is a system that is not very influential on their physiology. But there's other biorhythmic systems that they follow that are so, the moon is just one of them. For our plant body work, when the moon is in Virgo, we're not doing anything with our plants. We're not touching them. If anything, you might work on the structure for your plant. You might feed your plant, maybe, but go light. It's a great time to do research on what would be good for your plant and support it for your plants. But otherwise, leave them alone. And there is no astrology of note for this day. And we only have one holy day to mention. It's, not just one day. It's a month-long festival that kicks off on this day, but just the one. And it is Brumalia from our Roman ancestors. This runs from approximately November 27th to December 27th, and this basically kicks off the winter festival season for ancient Romans, honoring Saturn and Cronus, Ceres and Demeter and Bacchus in some situations. This festival was absolutely celebrated in the ancient eras, but it was recorded to have been celebrated in Constantinople up through the 11th century. So this was one of those that ran for a very, very long time. A lot of Roman life, especially during classical antiquity, centered on agriculture and military and farming, and life was hard. You had to work at it a lot, and the short portion of the year after the crops were pulled in and, during winter when it was wet enough that nothing was really going to grow, cold enough that nothing was really going to grow, was this, opportunity for people to play and have fun. Remember last week in the podcast, we talked about the Mercatus, that enforced shopping thing that the Roman government was like, no, 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 we got to get people back into the markets. Brumalia is one of those festivals that would have been taking people away from the city center and, would have been an opportunity for them to hold this sort of welcome into winter kind of festival. There was, sacrifices, which are very common during that time. Farmers and vine growers and all of those folks. But for the most part, it was playing and having a good time. So yeah. Anyways, we have this winter festival, month-long kickoff that ends with Saturnalia. It leads up to Saturnalia. Okay, that brings us to November 28th. We still have our waning moon hanging out in Virgo, so we are still doing that Virgo moon work. For our astrology on this day, we have Mercury conjunct the Sun at 6 degrees of Sagittarius at exactly 12:18 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is also referred to as Cazimi. You will hear some astrologers say this is Mercury Cazimi the Sun, or Mercury is Cazimi, meaning Mercury is conjunct the Sun. And in Sagittarius, no less. So this is a very philosophical, expansive, generously minded Mercury and Sun conjunction. And really, when we have this going on, this is a day to absolutely express yourself. Communications deluxe, comms deluxe is what I have in my notes. And it really is lots of communication, lots of texts, phone calls, emails, notes left by the door, all of that kind of stuff. Things can feel very charged on a day like this. Things can feel very electric. And that's very cool because we have 3 pretty important holidays kicking off on November 28th. The first one is November 28th to December 24th. We have Advent from our Catholic friends and family. This is the month-long season, basically, that leads up to the Nativity of Christ, or the birth of Christ, Christ Mass or Christmas. You may have heard of it. So this is, the month leading up to that. We have Advent calendars and all of that fun stuff, right? This is the start of the liturgical year in Western Christianity. It's part of the wider Christmas and holiday season. And specifically, the word Advent means the coming or the arrival. And it comes from the Greek parousia. In the New Testament, this is the term used for the second coming of Christ. And so the season of Advent for Christians and for Catholics is sort of a triple coming. There is the coming of Christ from 3 different perspectives. There's the physical nativity in Bethlehem, there's the reception of Christ in the heart of the believer, and then there's the eschatological second coming, or the belief that Jesus is going to rise from the dead or come back in another incarnation as himself. So so Advent season sort of celebrates that whole thing. Also kicking off on this day, now I guess I should say this, that Advent kicks off on November 28th every year. But this year, on November 28th, Hanukkah also starts. And that's really cool. Now, side note, Hanukkah, also known as the Festival of Lights, specifically, this comes from the Wikipedia page, so God bless. This is commemorating the recovery of Jerusalem and the subsequent rededication of the Second Temple at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt against the Secludian. You didn't know all that? Hanukkah actually wasn't that big of a deal. It's a very small holiday in the Jewish year. It's important, but it's not as important as like Sukkot, for example, or Rosh Hashanah. Like that's New Year's. That's a big deal. But because Christmas time is such a big deal in America, Hanukkah, as the holiday that generally falls right around this time of year and relatively close to winter solstice, has sort of become the default thing. Um, there's probably some conjecture around that as well, but one of the biggest elements of Hanukkah, of course, is the menorah, which is the candle holder that holds 9 candles. The center candle is called the attendant, or shamash, and each night one additional candle is lit on the menorah. There are festivals including songs. People play with dreidels, which is a traditional toy. There are traditional foods like latkes, and dairy foods, and all kind of yummy stuff like that. So that's what's up on that day. Well, I should say that's what's up with Hanukkah. So we have Advent happening on this day. We have Hanukkah happening starting on this same day, with this Mercury conjunct the sun. And also on this day, from our Gnostic friends and ancestors, we have the day of Sophia. Sophia in Gnosticism is a feminine figure, and she is analogous to the human soul, but is also simultaneously one of the feminine aspects of God. Specifically, I guess another way to put this is that Gnostics held that she was the syzygy, basically like the female twin of the divine aeon of Jesus. Kind of like the bride of Christ. And I know it's a lot of Jesus stuff in this week's podcast. I apologize. It's a lot of Jesus right off the bat here. But it's important because there's been different eras to Christianity and different things celebrated at different times. And in a very early form of Christianity, the divine feminine was a much bigger deal. And so here at the beginning of this month leading up to winter solstice, we have the day of Sophia. She is basically she's like a bridge between divinity and humanity. And she's knowledge. This is also very important with some other days that are coming up this week. But she really is the embodiment of divine knowing, divine wisdom. And that is a painful place to be sometimes, to be wise, to know, right? We have that phrase of the idea of like ignorance is bliss. Well, then what is knowing? Right? And this is a divinity that is of knowing, that is awareness. Anyways, this is an archetype that is really incredible to work with, and an archetype that we are going to see repeated a few more times in the next couple of days. All right, November 29th, our waning moon enters Libra. And this is a moon that is really kind of calling us back into the body. It ultimately is going to be balsamic moon in Libra the next day, so I'm going to get into it a little bit more under November 30th, but it enters pretty early on November 29th, so you have some time to work with it on this day. That Virgo moon was asking us to be alone in terms of like setting our boundaries and really saying like no to the energy that we have been giving others or other systems or whatever, that like it's not helping us, right? And now this is a day to like turn that into a bit of sweetness for yourself. And really Be sweet to yourself. Absolutely. Okay. For our, like I said, we'll get into it a little bit more on the next day. For our lunar body, we are resting, relaxing, supporting, nourishing, or otherwise restoring, resting our lower digestive organs and systems. So, not exactly the waste systems. We'll get to that when the moon moves into Scorpio, but the stages just before that. Um, and so when the moon is moving through Virgo and Libra, we really are working with a lot of our internal organs, and specifically the higher end of the digestive system, and then down into the lower end of the digestive system. And we can always work with the metaphor of that too. Of, am I digesting things properly in my life? Am I holding on to stuff? Is this stirring up my gall? Right? Is that thing, right? We don't have to always work with the we don't have to work with the symbolism always on the physical level, and we can, but we can also work with the metaphor of it as well. So this is a good time to ask ourselves, am I processing my stuff? Like, I'm thinking about things and I'm having stuff come at me and I'm having things come up from in me. But am I digesting this? Am I processing it through? And ultimately getting ready to what? Poop it out, right? And ultimately what? Turn that into compost, right? And grow some really amazing tomatoes in a few months with my issues that I have processed. That's what it's all about. That really is the metaphor. And this portion of the wheel is about tearing it down, letting it fall apart, letting it decay, letting it rot, letting it really come apart. And that is scary for just about all of us. We would prefer to have order in our life. We would prefer to have things that make sense and a pattern to follow, or at least to recognize and harmonize with. And this portion of the wheel is about undoing backwards and wrong and bent and, from underneath and from outside. Um, and it sets us on edge. It's unsettling for us. And that's okay. It's okay to be unsettled. It's a cool, fun place to be some of the time. Some of the time. Some. Okay, let me now move on to the astrology of November 29th, because we have a lot of stuff going on this day. So we have Mars in Scorpio, trine Neptune in Pisces at 20 degrees. Also on this same day, we have Mercury in Sagittarius, trine Chiron in Aries at 8 degrees. And we have Mercury in Sag, sextile Saturn in Aquarius at 8 degrees. And these three transits harmonize so well in such a really cool, weird way. It's just neat to see the stuff line up sometimes, because on the surface, these three don't feel like they necessarily have anything to do with each other, and they totally do. So first off, I want to start with the Mars trine Neptune. Now, on the surface, this is encouraging spiritual work or working at our spirituality. Researching into how you and all the other people in your life relate to each other and the universe, just that, not a big deal, right? But specifically, this is a really great day to work with a spirit of true self-sacrifice. It's a great day to help others, and we have that come up a lot this week as well. But specifically, it is honestly, oddly, a really great day to look objectively at your life and see what it needs. It is a really great time to look at your life and your world objectively and see what it really is without judging it or condemning it. And just seeing it for what it is, seeing it for all of its flaws and its warts and its lovely wonders, and just being like, cool, right on. I get that. I grok that, I believe is something that the kids might say. Um, and so how that sits really nicely with these other two transits is Mercury in Sag, trine Chiron in Aries, really brings in this moment of feeling very comfortable with your wound, feeling very comfortable with the awkward and weird and like never has fit correctly parts of yourself. That's the stuff that Chiron really represents in us, is the sacred wound that we all carry. And on this day with Mercury and Sag, this trine with Mercury, it's very much like, and I'm cool with this today. Like I get where this comes from, and I understand why I have it and what I could possibly do with it, and that it's totally okay to be super weird in this way. It's totally okay for me to be weird in this way. We also find it more easy to integrate the wisdom from our personal wound with this kind of transit. Like Mercury is really like, here I'm putting words to this, and I'm bringing up this experience from the unconscious or from the depths into the conscious realm and into the conscious light to put words to it, to be able for the sense of self to be able to integrate this thing in a conscious way. Really, really potent stuff. And then we have, at the same time, basically, Mercury is also sextiling Saturn. And so we are able to look at our life with this really critical eye and see what needs to be changed or corrected, but not from a judgy place. We're not critiquing ourselves. We're just being super real with like, here's what we've got. Here's how this thing works. Here's what that thing does. Let's go. Let's build the thing. And so how cool is that to have these three, astrological aspects happening on the same day within this season, right, of Samhain, where we're really sort of digging up and unearthing the murky depths of our own shadow self, right? And the murky depths of like the funky stuff that we've been handed from past generations, and all of that ooky work. This is a season that really, really dials a lot of that stuff in. And here's this day where we get to sit and be like, yep, and here's all of my weird parts. And here's exactly where they go and what they're for. And I'm totally okay with the places where I'm really weird. I absolutely love this kind of astrology. It's very exciting to me, clearly. Okay. So then, also on this day, we have a feast to Hathor as Sekhmet. This is from our Egyptian friends and ancestors. Sekhmet was a warrior goddess, is a warrior goddess, I should say, as well as a goddess of healing. She is depicted as a lioness. She was also seen as a great protector of the pharaohs and led them into warfare, but she also, upon their death, would continue to protect them, bearing them into the afterlife. And so this is Hathor, the great goddess of life, death, rebirth, and all, um, as Sekhmet, sort of donning the crown of Sekhmet. And I think, overseeing the lands of the dead, overseeing the opening of the gates to the lands of the dead, and all of these sort of wintertime, post Isis Osiris festivals that would be happening at this time of year. All right, let's move on to November 30th. All right, November 30th, we have our balsamic moon in Libra exactly at 24 degrees at 6:07 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, later in the day for everybody else around the planet. As I was saying before, this is absolutely a moon to first and foremost come back to your body, come back to your sensuality, come back to your creativity and your beauty and all of that stuff. Do it to you and for you first and foremost. And then, as we move through the moon in Libra, if you would like to bring in your lover or lovers, one more or four or more, do that. And keep the energy centered on beauty and the senses, sensualness. Um, and that can be sexual too, but it's first and foremost sensual, as in oriented to delighting the senses: touch, taste, smell, hearing, scent, all of it, right? So it should smell good, it should taste good, it should look good, like all of the stuff. Everything drenched in velvet. Hooray! Okay. As I mentioned, for our lunar body work, resting, relaxing, restoring, supporting, and otherwise nourishing, resting, what have you, the lower digestive organs and systems. And our plant body work, I think I forgot to say this for yesterday, we're doing nothing. Still, while the moon is moving through Libra, we are doing nothing to our plants in terms of like, trimming them or grafting or any of that stuff. But this is a cute day or cute days to wipe down your potted plants and give them a good dusting. You might wipe down the leaves of your plants and give them a good dusting. You might spin your plants. You might reorganize them to be more aesthetically appealing. Maybe put some new decorations up, dust off the plant stands, that kind of thing. Very appropriate in that way. Okay. Now let us move on to the astrology of November 30th. We have 3 pieces of astrology for this day as well. Like I said, we have a lot of astrology for this week, but thankfully, I don't think, anyways, any of the astrology is too heavy. I think it's all very relatively light, right? The work the day before, even though it's kind of heavy work, it's still very positive and it's like encouraging work, right? Okay, so on this day, we have the sun in Sagittarius, trine Chiron in Aries at 8 degrees. It was Mercury yesterday, and now it's sun today. Venus in Capricorn, sextiling Neptune in Pisces at 20 degrees. And then we also have the sun in Sagittarius, sextile Saturn in Aquarius at 8 degrees. So we just had the sun and Mercury conjunct a couple of days ago. Mercury moves just a little bit faster than the sun. So it is scooting on and making these transits the next day, and then here comes the sun right behind it, making the transits the following day. So, okay, what does this get us? Well, first and foremost, I will say that this day may have 2 different flavors, where the day before, the Mars and the Mercury and this and that all kind of like hugged up together and really were all dynamically on the same page. This day, the transits are not so much on the same page. So you may have a day that feels very flowy, very romantic, very dreamy and creative and sensitive and artistic. It might be a day of taking in art at the gallery or listening to music or, like designing fashion or drawing or painting or making love or writing poetry, or you get my drift, right? Okay. You might have a day that feels like that. It's like there is no sense of time. Everything is just luscious and wonderful. Or you may have a day where you are really driven to like get stuff done. Feeling very orderly. We're putting things in order. We're organizing things. We're cleaning and we're putting stuff where it belongs. That aspect is the sun in Sagittarius sextile Saturn in Aquarius at 8 degrees. It's like, yeah, no, I'm here to get stuff done. Not necessarily anything that's like super hardcore requiring detail attention, but generally like, yeah, let's get stuff organized in the house, or that kind of stuff. Very, very yes to that. All matters relating to like your work and career stuff are favored on this day. So if you have to make a decision on this day, it's probably going to be a good day for it. Or like planning things out or organizing stuff at your job would be like wonderful. But at the same time, we have this Venus and Capricorn sextile Neptune in Pisces that's like, I'd rather just wear this silk robe and lay around and eat bonbons all day. Thank you very much. And so either way, we have the sun in Sagittarius trine Chiron retrograde in Aries at 8 degrees. And this, just like the Mercury transit to Chiron, is another transit that really provides this very smooth flow in your psychological process around your sacred wound and what that means to your sense of self, and where does this all belong in your life, and what can you do with it, and all of that stuff. It's a day that you feel very comfortable with your weirdness and your awkwardness and your pain or your shame or your funkiness that you carry with you. It's another day of like feeling okay with it. So either we're doing organizing around that, or we're doing body painting around that. But either way, it's another day of like really processing, like, no, I'm weird in this way, and that is beautiful. That is really awesome and good. And here's how humanity benefits from me being this total freaking oddball alien creature. You're welcome. All right. Also on this day, we have two holy days. Like I said, very short on the holy days this week, right? Very trimmed up. All right. One, we have St. Andrew's Day from our Catholic friends and ancestors. St. Andrew is the disciple in the New Testament who introduced his brother, the Apostle Peter, to Jesus. So we can blame St. Andrew for a lot of things because he was the wingman that like kicked off a lot of stuff. Okay, whatever. More importantly, St. Andrew's Day in Scotland and in lots of other parts of Europe, especially all throughout Slavic Europe, St. Andrew's Day kicks off winter festivities and sort of the month leading up to winter solstice. And so this is really important, right? Again, we're in Samhain season, but the last month of Samhain season, ruled by Sagittarius, a mutable sign. And so very much this energy of we are transforming from this sort of wet, mushy rot and decay into the frozen bones of the earth in wintertime. Also on this day, we have the day of Mawu. Mawu, alternatively Mahu, is a creator goddess associated with the sun and the moon in Dahomey mythology, and she oversees the powers of life and death as well. So again, here is another great goddess from a pantheon that oversees life and death, having a holiday at this time of year, right? Just like Hathor as Sekhmet. So pay attention. Pay attention. These great goddesses overseeing this gateway, but also these great goddesses that have the secrets, that have the wisdom, that know the secrets of life and death, being venerated at this time of year, particularly in this week, right after the sun has moved into Sagittarius. See, I told you guys last week, didn't I? I told you. All right, let's move on to December 1st. All right, December 1st, our waning moon enters Scorpio. We worked with this lunar phase and sign last month. And I believe that this is the last time that we're going to see the moon in Scorpio in this phase for a while. I think so. Might be wrong about that. We might have one more month of it. But either way, we worked with this last month. Here we are again. And we are truly in this waning moon in Scorpio phase. We are truly considering that life, death, rebirth process for ourselves. We are looking back over our life at the like incredibly profound moments of transformation that life has demanded from us. Never asked, right? Just like, nope, you're changing like this. Yeah, we're killing all of that off. Okay, now. No, you can't take a bag. No, you cannot pack a lunch. We're doing this now. And so we're taking some time to really consider like the times when we have faced profound transformations, or if we haven't gone through a profound transformation, we are taking an opportunity to consider what that might be like for ourselves. Like if I had to give up something, what would it feel like, death to give up, right? Like what in my life would be like, if I stopped doing that, I wouldn't be myself anymore. That thing, that kind of stuff. Like last month, also, this is a really great time to do work for people in your community, in your friend groups, in your family that are going through it, who have gone through a really profound transformation of some kind and are still reeling from that. They're still healing from that. Perhaps they are experiencing PTSD, or like post trauma from an experience that they have been in. Perhaps they are, still dealing with the aftermath of cancer, or, surgery, or a profound breakup or whatever, just like that thing, like coming in, checking on your people and making sure that they are doing okay. And maybe even not really demanding anything from them, of just showing up and being like, hey, I bought dinner. We're watching a movie. You don't have to talk. We're just going to hang out. That type of stuff. That's what's up for this waning moon in Scorpio. Heavy work, but that's what's up when we're working with Scorpio. It's always heavy. For our lunar body work, we are resting, relaxing, nourishing, supporting, and otherwise restoring the sex, pleasure, reproduction, and waste organs and systems. And depending on how hard we blew it out while the moon was moving through Libra, this might be coming at just the right time, right? And for our plant body work, we are planting, transplanting, and grafting, specifically for below ground growth. So, where it is that we want to stimulate and support root growth and soil health is where we are doing that stuff. Okay. Also, on this day for our astrology, we have just a little old moment of Neptune stationing direct at 20 degrees of Pisces at exactly 5:22 a.m. Pacific Standard Time later in the day, for everybody else, as we like to say here on the cast. What are we doing with this? Well, first off, let's note Neptune is squaring the nodes right now, that are just about to be leaving Sagittarius and Gemini, moving into Taurus and Scorpio. I put up an extra podcast on my Patreon for my patrons, covering the nodes within the eclipse season that we are in, and like what that might look like depending on where it is moving in your natal chart. But specifically, this is squaring the nodes. And for me, this Neptune stationing direct is a moment where truly we really see the beauty in the imperfection of life. Like, where we find a moment where we are okay with knowing that we're never going to know it all. Believing that sometimes we can't believe what we believe. And sometimes we are going to believe things that are total nonsense, and we're still going to believe them. And that the world is irrational and life is pretty wild and it's not fair. And it's, pretty surreal and kooky a lot of the time. And that's just what it is. At least for now, that's how life is on Earth. Not to say that we shouldn't still try to be good people and do good things and make good things happen, but just really coming to a moment of acceptance of we cannot perfect this. There is no perfection. The beauty is in the imperfection. The beauty is in the horror and the exaltation of this reality. That's what's up. It's about believing in, like, having a moment of believing in your ability to establish an inner sense of peace while continuing to stay vulnerable and stay connected with your fellow humans. Because isn't that one of the things, right? Like, I can be peaceful if I'm totally alone. That's what our Virgo moon at the beginning of the week is saying, is like, screw these people. I tried. It's not worth the effort. I'd rather just stay alone. And this Neptune stationing direct is kind of a reprieve from that solitary vibe of like, none of us have ever gone it alone. And it has always been goofy. There has always been broken parts. There has always been stuff that is absolutely horrific. There has always been stuff that is absolutely beautiful and incredible. That is humanity. So I look forward to this Neptune stationing direct as a real moment of like coming almost into being a moment of like rectifying our sorrow and our deep love for the species and everything that we are as this wild creature hurtling through space on a rock. We all need more drugs. Side note, with Neptune stationing direct, I'm just going to say that. Neptune's time in Pisces has been really wild and really, really incredible. And it has been really intense as well. And it's not going to leave this sign anytime soon. So the fog is not going to necessarily lift, right? But I feel like this is a moment of like getting your bearings in the fog and like being okay with fog for a change. Could be also a day where like you have a real deep push to study the occult, practice your psychic skills, have a mystical conversation with your deities, that kind of stuff too. Could be really straightforward and direct kind of work like that. All right, let us now take a look at the fixed stars and holy days of December 1st. Okay, on December 1st, we have the heliacal rising of the fixed star Han. Han. Yeah, like Han Solo. Okay. This fixed star gets overlooked because it's basically at the same degree as a much more infamous or famous fixed star Antares, which we will talk about in just a few minutes. But I wanted to talk about it because it sits with Antares and it does a lot of the work that fixed star does, but it also links us to some of the fixed stars that we talked about last week and the week before that are about the serpent handler, Ophiuchus, and the serpent specifically that's in their hand. And that idea of the wound, the poison, and the medicine all being the same thing. Han sits in that conversation. It continues the theme of putting the knowledge to useful purpose. And it hints at added strength from the proximity of Antares within the same degree. So again, we'll get more into that symbolism tomorrow, quote unquote, in a few minutes when we talk about Antares. But Han is sort of emphasizing and tying together through these many days this idea of the poison, the wound, and the medicine all in the same experience, and learning how to take the hard thing and turn it into something powerful and healing for yourself and for others. Okay, our holy days on this day, other than that one, we have World AIDS Day. This is a global international day dedicated to raising awareness of the AIDS pandemic caused by the spread of HIV infection and mourning those who have died of the disease needlessly, I might add, because we just saw over the last 2 years how quickly a vaccine for a virus can be created when the world decides to throw its money behind something that is actually going to kill it. If AIDS had rolled out being a hell of a lot faster, we might have, our inoculation every month or every 6 months against AIDS. It's not something that can't be solved. It's something that just isn't being solved. I could go on and on about it, but I'm not going to. Okay. Also on this day, we have a day to the goddess Minerva from our Roman ancestors. Minerva is a Roman goddess of wisdom, strategic warfare, justice, law, victory, and the sponsor of arts, trade, strategy. She was not considered to be a violent warrior goddess, but a defensive goddess, like a goddess of defense and defending or protection, you might say. And with this big long list of stuff, we didn't really get into it too much, a few minutes ago, but this all describes the goddess, the Egyptian goddess Sekhmet as well. We talked about Sekhmet a lot more during Lunisad season, Lunasa Lamas season. But she absolutely is a goddess that oversees law and justice and the balance of scales and um, all it's sort of the order of society and all of that stuff. So Minerva also oversees all of that stuff. She is often compared to the Greek goddess Athena, and she was one of the three really big deities for Romans, celebrated along with Jupiter and Juno. She was a virgin goddess of music and poetry and medicine and wisdom and commerce and weaving and the crafts. And that whole description really connects her to Brigid. And in fact, she is a cognate of Brigantia or Brigid or Breed. So those goddesses are connected. She was often depicted with her sacred creature, an owl, usually named the Owl of Minerva, oddly enough. Um, and the owl symbolizes her association with wisdom and knowledge, as well as as well as less frequently the snake and the olive tree. Hello, the snake. Hello, what? Hello. Romans often considered her to be the plan for the universe personified. So here we have another wisdom goddess who is also a protector, who is a snake handler associated with snakes. What? Coming in here at the very end of fall in this last time period, a personification of wisdom, a great protector, that thing. Her name, Minerva, stems from the Proto-Italic Menezwo, which means intelligent or understanding, and ultimately it comes from the Proto-Indo-European Minos, which means thought, provided with a mind, intelligent, that thing. So she literally is the embodiment of thought and rational thinking. Again, very like Sophia, wisdom, thought, knowledge, all of that stuff. And along with everything else that she's doing, connecting to Sekhmet, connecting to Bridget, but sort of we're seeing across the week here as we step into Sagittarius season, this reiteration of we are coming into a time period of the crone, truly, as the embodiment of knowledge, wisdom, experience, information, all of that stuff. Also on this day, we have the day of Red Tara from our Buddhist friends and ancestors. Now, the Taras are this amazing collection of goddesses. In some pathways for Buddhists and Hindus, there's just one Tara. For other groups, there's a bunch of different Taras. Some groups see her as the mother of all Buddhas, but she appears as a female bodhisattva and is also a female Buddha in some forms of Buddhism. She's known as the mother of liberation, and she represents the virtues of success and work and achievement. Tara is also known as a savioress and a heavenly deity who hears the cries of beings experiencing misery in samsara, aka this reality. She may ultimately be a form of Durga. And Red Tara in particular is also called Pavari Tara, or the Tara who is swift and heroic. And she is red colored. She has 8 arms holding a bell, a vajra, a bow and arrow, a wheel, a conch, a sword, and a noose, which are very similar to the weapons and accoutrements that Durga carries. In this form as Red Tara, she is a protector, she is a defensive goddess, and she magnetizes things and attracts them as well. Really, really potent stuff. So this idea over and over and over again really being reiterated here of this great sacred goddess protector of knowledge. Lots of weaponry with these goddesses, bows and arrows. Oh wait, Sagittarius season. Isn't Sagittarius the archer? I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Let's move on to December 2nd. All right, December 2nd, and we still have our waning moon hanging out in Scorpio, doing its freaky Scorpio business. So we love that. We have no astrology of note for this day, and technically, we have no holy days for this day either, which is pretty cool. We do have a heliacal rising of a fixed star, though, and it is a fixed star of some import. So, we do have that, but we don't get days like this very often. Clearly, right? I've had a lot to say about just about every single day of the calendar year throughout this year of podcasts. So it's very unusual that we have a day with no holy day or holy festival, past or present. I mean, we may have month-long festivals happening, but we don't have anything of this day. And then to also have no astrology, take the day off, enjoy yourself, go run around with your pants off all day. The gods aren't paying attention. It's fantastic. we got a free one, kids. Take it, use it. Okay, but we do have this heliacal rising of this fixed star, so let's talk about it. I am going to read more or less directly from the website Astrology King and his information that he has about fixed stars, because it's really good. I'm not going to necessarily read all of it, but a piece or a few pieces of it, specifically this. The traditional name Antares is from the ancient Greek, and it means anti-Aries. This is literally the rival of the planet Mars. Antares is one of the 15 Behenian fixed stars, and this is a collection of fixed stars that are really, really important in planetary magic and other ceremonial magical practices and other religious and magical knowledge collections, wisdom collections. This is thought of as like the prime star of Scorpio. And its name means, as I said, the rival to Mars, or anti-Aries, anti-Mars. In the night sky, it is often more visible than the planet Mars itself because it is so bright and it's so red. Now, here's where things get interesting. In Babylon, it was called Urbat, U-R-B-A-T, Urbat, in the constellation Horus, which was the divine protector. Hello? What? Now, the Babylonian title brings us to this star's role as one of the 4 archangel stars. We have Fomalhaut, which connects to Gabriel, Aldebaran, which connects to Michael, Regulus, which connects to Raphael, and now Antares, which connects to Uriel. The city of Ur, where Abraham was born, is said to have been the first city to be built after the great disaster and was given the name of Earth itself, Urs, U-R-S. That city stood close to the site of later Babylon itself, not too far from the modern Baghdad. Uriel, the archangel, not mentioned in the sacred texts made available to the public, was the one who had the secret knowledge of the great disaster and only revealed it to those judged able to accept it and still believe in the divine goodness in all that befalls us. Now, have we not talked about that all week long in our astrology, in our lunar phases, and in the holy days that we are experiencing throughout this week, the different myths and archetypes that we're working with? It all is centering in this idea of witnessing how gnarly the world is and being able to love it at the same time. Now, there's more to this anti-Aries thing because in if you are in the northern hemisphere and you're looking at the sky, um, as Scorpio, the constellation is coming up, the constellation of Aries is actually heading down in the west. So it's literally setting, right? The hero that is represented by Aries energy is setting, while this other protector energy is coming up, maybe to take its place. We could think of these as the two, halves of the year, right? We kind of have worked with that symbolism quite a bit as well during this portion of the wheel. So um, just really, really cool connection throughout the week of this idea of witnessing how gross shit can be, how weird stuff can be, how awkward, how uncomfortable, and saying to ourselves, I'm still going for this. I'm still in love with it. I still embrace it. I still am here. I'm still doing this. Um, and I'm letting it affect me, and I'm gonna be in that process and really authentic in that process too. Oh, such potent stuff for us to work with. Okay, that, my friends, is it for the week. I know that this is a bit short compared to what we normally do, but hey, there's a lot going on. We're coming into the quote unquote holiday season. It's always holiday season, bitch. You want to listen to the podcast? No, but seriously, we've all got, family obligations, work obligations, all the stuff, right? So as I always say, you will have permission to put yourself in timeout if somebody is saying something stupid, if somebody is triggering you, if somebody is trying to get under your skin, if somebody continuously refers to an old or dead version of yourself, you are totally given permission by me, your witch, to put yourself in timeout, to walk around the block, to drive to the store for more whipped cream and take an hour and a half to do so. Whatever, right? You do whatever you have to do to get through this season alive. I give you my permission to do that. um, if you celebrate stuff at this time of year with your family, I hope it's wonderful. Or at least not as bad as it was last time. Um, if you are really doing it up, you are protesting with your family at this time of year, right? You're out there feeding people and you're doing charitable works in your community with your family at this time of year, as well as staying home and keeping your feet warm, doing that thing. It sounds like I'm not going to talk to you again for a long time. I don't know why I'm saying it this way. Like, take care of yourself, honey. I'll see you soon. It's probably just going to be about a week from now. Oh, man. What is time, right? Maybe that's what it is. It feels like a lot. All right. I'm going to stop there. I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. And I know I've said this before, but really, thanks for doing the work. Thanks for doing the work, because nobody else is going to do your work for you. And every time we improve ourselves a little bit, we make it better for everybody else around us. And so thanks. Thanks for being willing to face the really gross, weird, awkward shit in yourself and find a way to lovingly live with it, and be less of a burden on the people around you and the community at large. Me too, right? But really, it sucks. And we have a lot of things in our world that are offering bliss through ignorance and distraction through consumption, as a means of avoiding or putting off this work, or even acknowledging that we are aware that we have work to do. So every time you choose to engage your racist biases, every time you choose to engage your questionings around your political beliefs or your religious beliefs, or like trying to deal with a gnarly past from an ancestor, thank you, thank you, thank you. It fucking sucks. And we have to do it. So thank you for doing it. Blessed be.